Hello, everybody. My name
What's
is
up?
Mimir,
And I'm Lennox.
and we got a couple little things we want to bring up today before we start. Um, Thanks again for everybody watching on YouTube. If you haven't checked any of that stuff out, go ahead and head on over to the link. We also have our merch shop, so go ahead and check that out. Um, I know a couple people have been mentioning a few things to kind of change up with the stream. Really appreciate the feedback. Um, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, just let's get to it. I'm ready to get started. As always, well, actually, yeah, I guess I do have something to add. As always, make sure to check out the merch store. We got all kinds of good stuff over there. We like to just throw on there. No telling when we're gonna add new merch. I just got my stuff in the mail a little while ago. Got myself a snazzy set of flip flops, so I have something to wear when I use the shower at the gym. Got myself a very nice T-shirt, so I can also wear when I go to the gym. Um, yeah, just check out the merch store. Also, engage with us. Do comments. Do comments, everyone. Write comments, like and subscribe. Do all that good stuff. Yeah. Other than that, I'm ready to get going.
Yeah, I actually I just got my T-shirt in today too. Um, it needs to be washed, obviously. But it is a very nice shirt. I like the way it looks. It fits pretty well. It's a little snug, but it's that new shirt like snugness. It's not like too small or anything like that. It just kind of needs to be worn in a little bit.
Oh, you got the athletic cut one too, didn't you?
I think I just got the Gildan shirt, the $20 one that we got on the store there.
Yeah, that's the one I got. It's got like an athletic cut to it. I'm not sure if that's the right term for it, but it's like a little more snug, like towards the upper torso and the arms.
Yeah, I just kind of put my arms inside and like stretched it out a little bit, just that way it kind of gives it that feeling of like, being worn once or twice already. But
Yes,
and it,
I
it fits
too.
nice.
Yes, I too needed to stretch it out to make room for all my muscles.
I mean, not all of us can be this great.
Oh, sure.
That kind of reminds me of a pretty good joke that's gonna tie in well with our topic here today. Um, Muscle Wizard cast fists. Like I've always heard that, and I thought it was pretty funny. But again, that ties into our topic today. We are going to be talking about Harry Potter and lots of wizard and witchy things today.
Let's go.
So, yeah, what's your favorite Harry Potter movie first? Oh, actually, okay. Before before we get into it, I would like to say spoilers. Spoilers for the Harry Potter movies, the Harry Potter books, any video games, like anything like that. If you don't want to hear any spoilers about Harry Potter, I'm sorry. You'll have to either get over it or move on to the next episode. Actually, that's another good point. We will probably be splitting this up again, so make sure to look out for part two in the following weeks. Not sure exactly how many yet. We're still kind of like figuring out how long to post in between. Um, but yeah, make sure you check out part two, and that's about it. So, what's your favorite Harry Potter movie?
Okay, first of all, that is a loaded question. I don't know how you could just ask someone that on the street and not expect like just vitriol in response. I'd say also be careful because I'm going to mention internet Harry Potter shit that you probably don't even follow, and it's going to go crazy. But if I had to pick a movie, just a movie, I would say Goblet of Fire was probably the most fun to watch.
Um, I think I'd have to say Prisoner of Azkaban. I think that's one of the most like popular ones too. I think a lot of people really liked that one.
That's a pretty
Um,
good one too.
but I don't know, like I guess during that time frame when that movie came out, I had some like pretty good things going on in life, so I think that's another reason why it ties into like one of my favorites. I remember when it came out and I was sitting watching it at home and everything when it came out on DVD.
I would say also that yeah, like for me, DVDs when I first started getting the Harry Potter DVDs in my household, I would say that Chamber of Secrets was pretty good, but I preferred Sorcerer's Stone or Philosopher's Stone if you're English and listening to this,
Um,
because they didn't because publishing companies didn't think American kids would know what philosophers were.
yeah. Well, um, I I wasn't a huge fan of the first one. I mean, okay, it's an iconic movie and everything, but like once all the other ones started kind of coming out, like it was definitely one of the ones where I was like, yeah, it holds up okay, but like clearly they got better as they went on. Um, I do also like the Deathly Hollows Part One. That is like one of my absolute favorites.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good too. I'd have to say that yeah, that also makes sense because the actors like they were really skilled. Daniel Radcliffe, who played Harry Potter, in case you didn't remember that, he was a very talented. He's like internationally famous now. It's crazy to talk about him as though people don't know who he is. But yeah, no, he was very talented when he got started out. There's all these stories like of people working on like the first two movies where he's just like this little kid, and they're like, "Oh my God, this kid is really talented and he's really fun to be around." Like he breaks the norm of child actors where everyone was like, "Oh boy, I really hope we didn't hire this piece of shit kid to play Harry Potter because man, we're gonna be stuck with this kid for at least a decade."
Yeah, well, with how often they change characters and other things like halfway through a series, like I mean they did that with Dumbledore.
Well, yeah, it's because the original guy died. I'm sad that I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but yeah, no, he passed away, which is a shame because I actually preferred the original Dumbledore actor. God, I feel terrible. I can't remember his name. I gotta look it up now.
Yeah, I did really enjoy like his interpretation of Dumbledore. He seemed like the more kind old wizard and less, you know, dramatic and flary. Even though apparently Dumbledore was supposed to be a little bit like that. I will be honest though, and I'm gonna get hate for it. Never read the books. I
Mimir is a filthy half blood. Everybody.
I had one of the books growing up, um, and I might still have it somewhere. But it was one of those things where I I wasn't like super big on reading. I liked certain very particular books, and it just never seemed interesting to me at the time. I liked the movies better when they like came out. I was like, oh well, why read the book when I can watch the movie? Obviously, I don't think that way now. I enjoy reading the books alongside watching the movies because I know that there's a clear difference in a lot of I guess universes for that.
Sounds
But
sounds like you're trying hard to defend yourself from the nerd rage.
I do think that like if they have a book, you should read the book. For like any movies like that, like give the book a shot. Even if it's audiobook, guys, like give it a shot.
Oh yeah. Believe it or not, actually, that segues well into what I was going to mention. Harry Potter was actually it's one of those books that really got me into like reading, like to pass the time. Because when I was a kid, and of course, you know, I lived like in the woods, as it were. I lived in a pretty rural area, and it was hard to get out and socialize with friends because a lot of them lived far enough away that you had to have a bike if you wanted to get there in a good amount of time. So I would spend a lot of time at home also trying to pass the time, trying to figure out what to do. And, you know, watching movies was my go to as an American teenager or a young American kid. And then eventually I had like the Harry Potter movie in, and there was a paperback copy of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone sitting around. And I was like, well, you know, maybe maybe just to test myself, I'll see if I can read parts of the book as the movie's happening. And then as I was reading it, I was like, oh, the book is much better than the movie. And like I don't remember why I did, but I had like the movie playing on a loop behind me as I was reading the book. I guess I was trying to like see if I could keep pace with it, which in hindsight is pretty stupid because there's no way that's going to happen. But uh, dumb kid stuff, you know. But Yeah, no, I was reading the book, and occasionally, like the movie would catch up and then pass by moments that I was at in the book, and I was like, "Oh, there's all this extra story that the movie is not showing." And I was very content driven at that point because I was like, "There's all this content I'm not getting by just watching the movie." So I think for that moment, it crystallized in my young mind. Oh, books are typically better than movies so long as you're willing to put in the work.
Yeah, it kind of like opened your eyes to like how probably not, like thinking about it at the time, but it opened your eyes to how difficult it can be to actually put, a book to a movie, because I mean some things you just can't put into a movie. It's not practical, or it costs like way too much money to try and throw something into a movie instead of just writing it on paper.
Right, and it's just like you can convey certain ideas easier with books because it's like, oh, just if do you want your reader to know what's happening, just write it down, just tell them. With the movie, it's like, what are you gonna do? Like the Shakespeare back in the old days of like Shakespearean plays, they used to have like characters would like turn slightly to the side towards the audience and give an inner monologue to the audience so that the audience knows what's going on. You don't really see that anymore in modern movies because people are like, why is this person just talking to themselves? Uh, but you also get like moments of like introspection or like there's other like uh, directors have to find different ways of conveying what a character's mood is, and actors, of course, have to contribute to that on their own. By the way, they have to find ways of conveying emotions so that the audience understands what they're thinking or what their motivations are in any given moment or scene. Uh, so yeah, in that respect, I guess the Shakespearean actors had a little bit easier. They could literally just turn to the audience and be like, "Oh, I'm Hamlet, or I'm Prince Henry, and boy, am I eager for this fight," or I'm Prince Henry, and oh boy, am I sad. These days, it has to be like, no, you have to look sad, just like look really sad. Can you shed a tear? We need you to cry on demand.
Well, I think that also kind of plays into when you're live on stage for any type of play or musical or whatever. It's kind of hard to convey that emotion on your face to the people in the back. Like on a big screen at the movie theater, or people sitting in their living rooms, whatever it may be. It's a lot easier. You can zoom in with a camera, instead of like trying to convey to the people sitting in the back row in the nosebleeds.
That's true. By the way, the name of the original Dumbledore actor was Richard Harris.
Okay. Um, did it say when he died?
That was back in 2002.
Okay. Yeah, I really liked the movies. It was one of the things when we were growing up, in my family, we watched a lot of movies, and it was kind of like our family thing. We would go to the video store, rent a couple movies, and kind of have like a couple movie nights throughout the week. That was like our big thing. But we did do a lot of reading. Like we did the summer reading program and everything, and we'd sit down and like read a book together out loud, and that kind of counted as like all of our reading, even though we may not have been actually reading the book ourselves some of the time. But there were times, where we were sitting listening to the story, and I remember very fondly that one of the best ones that we did was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe,
There you go.
and like I think that type of stuff always kind of piqued my interest more. So I think around the time that we got like one of the Harry Potter books was around the time that we were reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So I think that was another reason why I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to read this because we're already going through this other giant, massive like tome, you know, instead of like just sitting and reading like smaller books all the time. But like Harry Potter has always seemed interesting to me. And as I got older, I kind of really enjoyed that somewhat modern look on Harry Potter, because it's not set in the same time frame that we are. I think it's supposed to be back a few years or whatever. But I actually got a Deathly Hallows tattoo. That's how much I kind of really loved Harry Potter.
Yeah, it was a lot of people do, and I'm always nervous about getting tattoos myself, just because I'm like, well, I want to make sure I get something that I'm not going to regret or that means something important. But I absolutely support getting tattoos for things that have meaning for you, and yeah, getting a Harry Potter tattoo that's not cringe-inducing is very important. Like if you got Daniel Radcliffe's face tattooed to your thigh, you might need some emotional help.
I mean, I will say, growing up, I had a huge crush on Emma Watson, but
Oh God, who didn't?
I mean, of course, I'm not gonna be that creepy weirdo that gets like Emma Watson's face tattooed on me either or anything like that. Like, um, but I definitely do like the Deathly Hallows story so much. I think that was such a great like little tale within like Harry Potter that I was like, you know what? It's a simple enough design, and honestly, that's when I started doing my like tattoo apprenticeship and everything. So I went and I did the tattoo myself in white ink on my wrist, and for some reason my skin doesn't like white ink, or maybe the white ink that I had wasn't like, I don't know, the super best quality or whatever. But it like somewhat bled through, so it wasn't as prominent as I wanted it to be. I can still see it, but there's definitely some spots that I could probably get touched up or whatever. But
Yep. Oh, I was also going to mention that the funny thing about the Harry Potter fandom that is like speaking of getting tattoos, uh, a lot of people who like are Harry Potter fans and like ended up like adapting like their love of the series in different ways or processing it in different ways. Like there's so many fan adaptations of stuff, and that's something I got really big into as time was going on. Uh, so people might have already figured this out if they like search my name or whatever. I sometimes write fan fiction stuff, mostly just like to practice my own writing and whatever. One of the things I that I that I got into before I started writing fan fiction was I used to read fan fiction, and I'm really outing myself as a huge nerd with this one. Uh, but I always tell people it's as long as you're willing to trog your way or just like just move your way through all the crap and all the really bad stories. There's some real diamonds out there. Like there are people with genuine talent or with cool ideas who express them. And one of the biggest fan fiction fandoms out there has got to be Harry Potter. Um, I think in a number of sites I've been to, I usually see it as like the biggest category. Like there's nothing bigger ever. It's like that everyone wants to write it. It's practically mandatory that if you're a fan fiction writer, you wrote something for Harry Potter at some point, because holy crap, there are so many Harry Potter stories.
well,
A lot
yeah,
of them never really go anywhere. A lot of them never really get finished or anything like that. But like I said, there's some real diamonds out there.
I mean, just think of it though too. Like a lot of us grew up with Harry Potter, so one of the biggest things was everybody wanted their own letter to Hogwarts. Everybody loved the universe. They wanted to be a wizard or a witch, which we'll get on that topic too a little bit. But everybody wanted to be a part of that universe. So like fan fictions, you can insert yourself into that universe, which is I think another reason why a lot of people really like the video game that just came out, Hogwarts Legacy, because you can create your own wizard or witch and put them in that universe, and that's you. And you get to run around and be part of it.
It's the Harry Potter game that honestly I wish had come out 10 years earlier. It's I've played a good amount of it. I have I I don't want to delve into a talk about Hogwarts Legacy, but yeah, no, it's the Harry Potter game that I really wish had come out years ago, because it's everything that people could want from it. There's all this stuff that goes on in it, just like you really feel like you're a part of that world. Like the characters you're interacting with, the students, like I just love the feel of it. Like the centerpiece for the whole game is Hogwarts itself, the castle. And they had to make some compromises to translate it from books and movies into game, because you have to be able to walk everywhere in that game in order to like see the castle. Like in the movie it's like, oh, you're passing by these doors and who cares what's behind those doors. In the game it's like, no, those doors have to lead somewhere. Like this is a building. We can't just have a door in the background that shouldn't exist. Like, magic or not, your audience is going to be like, wait, where in the castle are they, or what's going on? Like, so the stuff has to make a certain amount of sense when you're drawing it up.
Yeah, that's game design in itself. Like, you gotta have actual layout of your maps.
Oh yeah, I gotta say though, as like the centerpiece for the game, Hogwarts is absolutely incredible in that. Like I feel like I'm in wizarding school when I'm walking around. I spent after I got the game, I spent a solid hour just walking around and just experiencing the environment, listening to little conversations, just seeing students walk by. Like I'd see a kid from a class that I was in earlier, and I had the urge to like just turn my head and be like, it's like, yo, Samantha, what's the homework? Uh, I felt like I was a part of the student body, which was great. Like I have some notes, but that's like probably for a much more in depth like game standpoint or whatever. And I'm sure that there's like people who would dispute some of them, mostly about like things to assist in immersion and stuff like that. But now the Hogwarts Legacy, it does a great job of just immersing you in the Harry Potter environment. Like I really feel like I'm a part of it, and it was a great decision on part of the game devs to make sure that the game is set far enough in the past that it doesn't interfere with anything in the timeline. It seems like a simple enough idea where it's like if you're dealing with like a fantasy or a sci-fi universe, it's like, oh, we've fleshed out this timeline really well, so we can't squeeze anything else in. And just someone in the writing room is like, no problem, we'll just dial back the clock 100 years. Therefore, nothing we do is really a big problem.
Yeah, I still have yet to play it, mostly because like I've been playing a lot of other games. I haven't really had a whole lot of time to invest in getting it and everything, but I will end up getting it and I will end up playing it. I know that when I get it though, I'm going to be like sucked into it. So I'm going to have to dedicate, like a day or two of just kind of getting started on it.
The puzzle nature of just some of the stuff like you see around Hogwarts is pretty nuts. The like you'll come across something and you'll be like, "Oh, this is something I can interact with somehow." And then you'll stare at it for a second and then you'll start just being a gamer, like my instinct is to be like, "Oh, it's an interactable." And I start throwing different spells at it and then nothing happens and I'm like, "Okay, what am I not seeing here?" And I start looking around for clues or hints and I'm just like, "Okay, what am I missing?" And that's honestly one of I think the best parts of the game, and also about just wandering around Hogwarts for an hour, where I'm just like, okay, there's all this stuff going on. Like I gotta figure out like what the puzzles are, and of course the solution to figuring out a lot of those puzzles, especially because early on I just went walking around Hogwarts, was, hey, go to class, learn magic, you nerd. Then you'll be able to interact with these puzzles better, and I'll. I just was like, oh, I don't understand what this puzzle is. I got to get to class.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen a lot of like TikToks for the game, obviously, especially when it first came out and everything. And a lot of people were saying pretty much the same thing, like go to class, learn magic. Like that's kind of the big thing about the game is like the more you learn, the better you will become. Like you actually have to go and learn like new spells, learn new techniques and everything. Somebody had like this super like really powerful like herbology build. Like that, like all their spells were from that class.
Yeah.
And they were taking down enemies like super efficiently, and I don't know, because I haven't played it, but they were going crazy with like all these spells and everything, and I was like, that would be something really cool to learn, kind of like do like a very specific build. But then I've seen other TikToks too where it was they're walking through certain parts of the castle and they have like a voiceover of the audiobook and it's describing like certain parts of the castle and everything as the person's walking through in the game, and it matches up so well. Like just hearing them read like the layout or the design or whatever's happening like right then in the book, and then seeing the person looking around the scene of the video game, and it kind of really matches up like that I thought was really nice.
That yeah, I've seen one or two of those too, and that's really cool. The one that I thought was cool, I actually this is like a love hate relationship thing, but like I hate the design in theory of the divination classroom because I'm just like you make me climb all these stairs and then I have to climb this rickety ass ladder just to get to class. You realize I'm carrying my books and shit, right? Like this is a workout. I mean, granted, Hogwarts Feast, everyone probably needs a good workout after that shit, but at the same time, it's like what a pain in the ass classroom to get to. It's like no, people aren't quitting divination because it's a bullshit course. They're quitting divination because that shit is difficult to get to every week.
I mean, yeah, that's fair.
I just like but on the flip side of it though, like in going what you said, yeah, no, I loved like going up a tower and then being like, "What's this?" And then I see the ladder come down, and right away I'm like, "Oh, that's the divination classroom."
I think one of the ones that I really liked because I myself am a Ravenclaw. I think I liked when they
Nerd.
were when they were describing like the Ravenclaw's like common room. Um, I thought that was pretty nice to look at. So
I'm gonna go ahead and just say first off, Hufflepuffs for life. Slytherins, y'all are my boys. But at the same time, also Ravenclaws, I think might have accidentally ended up with the best common room just because they have. This is a very minor spoiler, like for the aesthetic, but you have like a rooftop garden with the Ravenclaw dorm room, and from what I understand, you can take off from there, and it's also just like a great spot to like just enjoy the scenery. But yeah, I'm a Hufflepuff, so our common room is right next to the kitchens, and we're also not really involved with that inter-house rivalry shit. So I'm gonna get some snacks. I'm gonna just sit down in the common room. Y'all can argue about Quidditch or whatever. I'm just gonna chill. Like
um,
who's got time for this good and evil bullshit? I'm a Hufflepuff. I don't give a damn.
I think one of the things too about the movies is they didn't show too much of like the rest of the common room stuff or like any of the when I think about it, like there's that common room for Gryffindor that they show in the movies, right? And then
Yep.
when they go up towards like uh the bedroom, the one bedroom or whatever, it's got like 6 beds in there or whatever, like 7 beds. It's like, okay, there are hundreds of Hogwarts students. Like, I want to know how this is laid out. I want to know like, is it all just kind of like 5 or 6 beds in like one room or whatever, or is it like I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I want to know like how is it actually laid out. Which I mean, in the game, it might be easier to kind of walk through and check out that stuff or whatever, or it might be you know somewhat kind of just like, oh well, we're just gonna block off these areas and just be like, okay, well yeah, these are all bedrooms, but you don't need to go in there. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You'll enjoy it. I haven't done a Gryffindor character yet. I definitely want to have like one character for each house. But that's a lot. That's a lot of gameplay. But at some point, at the very least, I want to be able to access the different common rooms and explore those. And not to mention, there's unique house items for each house, like robes and stuff, like the House Champion Award or like the Top Student Award scarf that you can wear, which I always wear in game because all these scrubs got to know how good I am. Uh,
Are you
hey,
sure you're
hey,
not a
I'm just
Slytherin?
hey, I'm just saying. I work hard, and everyone's got to see how good I am because of that. I show up class day one. I learn this spell. These other kids who have been learning for years, they got nothing on me. I'm winning the little competitions and games. I beat the dueling club kids. It's like they all got to know how good I am. I work hard. I'm the best. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, well, I'm more content where I can just focus on my studies and just kind of become a great wizard.
No.
Well, I mean, I did create a podcast called Modular Nerds, so
Ah, God, I just want to. I want my character to find yours so I can bully you. Yeah, that actually brings up another thing though. You can't do multiplayer in it, which makes sense to me. A lot of people complained about the lack of multiplayer, but me, I'm very happy with just a solid single player game. Like this, the game when I'm playing, it's like this needs to be about my immersion. Like as long as I'm having a good time, it's okay. Like I don't need 100 other people in chat or in like a group like wandering around breaking my immersion by doing dumb crap. It's like, no, I appreciate just walking around on my own and just being a part of my own little world. I don't need the big crowd.
Well, I don't think it definitely needed to be, like an MMO or anything, but I think that if it were like a co-op or, like a, 4-person co-op or multiplayer or whatever, I think that definitely would have like been a huge selling point. I definitely think that, if you could get like a few of your friends to sit down and play and walk around Hogwarts together and you know, go on
In
these quests or whatever you want to call them, missions, whatever. I think that would have been like a big selling point for them. They kind of a missed opportunity there.
I agree with you a little bit there. I think a big thing that they could have done in like the spirit of like early 2000s gaming was so it's you probably saw this from different TikToks already, or just spoilers on YouTube from shorts or whatever. It's like it's really hard to stay unaware of stuff these days if you're at least mildly interested in the topic. The algorithms are always going to try to find ways to shove spoilers in your face about stuff. But one of the things that would have been really cool was if you could share your room of requirement, because you get access to that in the game, and the ability to share that space after like you decorate it would be really cool. Like it's like, oh, maybe the room of requirement unlocks other universes where other players, and you can invite them to come hang out with you, and you can show off and maybe do like mini games and stuff together, or play wizard chess together or something.
Kind of like what's it called? The fuck's it called? The farming one on like the Switch and everything.
Oh, oh God! Now you got me blanking on it. Oh, we're gonna get crap for this. Not Farmville. No, what's the one with the village?
Yeah,
Oh my,
I keep thinking Stardew Valley, and I know that's not it.
no, that's not it. Oh crap,
Animal
we're gonna get
Crossing.
crap for that. Like Animal Crossing. Jesus,
Yeah.
Jesus
So
Christ.
so like
I don't play Animal Crossing.
you invite somebody to your island, but this was you'd invite them to your room or requirement. Like I think that'd be kind of cool. Yeah.
Actually, the comparison that I was thinking of, just because recently I got into a conversation with someone about Pokemon, was the rival system on the older Pokemon games, where you could battle people in their quote unquote secret base on the map.
Oh yeah, I don't know
Basically,
anything about that.
yeah, you could like you could build like a secret hideout of your own, which in my case I was like, finally, enough of pretending in Team Rocket hideouts that I'm the boss of this secret base. Uh, but yeah, the you could set up like a little base or whatever, and then you could have like another. You could connect with a friend, and then that friend could come to that secret base and battle like an NPC version of you. I always thought that was really funny, like just a cool way to do it. And then some guys, I remember when I was growing up, they would used to like spec out their secret base with those little rotational pads, where it's like I walk in and all of a sudden I have to go through a puzzle to reach them, and I'm just like, you bastard! Like I just came here for a Pokemon battle. Now I'm doing a puzzle. Like come on.
Yeah. I don't know. I like the idea though of like if it were like Animal Crossing, you could be on and invite somebody and walk around and show them, like your room or whatever. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I haven't played very many like Harry Potter games. I know there's the old, what is it, the PlayStation 1 or the PlayStation 2, whatever, like Harry Potter game. Um, I guess that never popped up on my radar when I was growing up. But I
The
know about it.
the PlayStation 1 Harry Potter game has developed its own meme culture with how ridiculous it is. Like
Yes.
the poorly polygon avatars of like Hagrid and Harry, and just Hermione's little sprite there being like, "Oh no."
Somebody actually made a mod for Legacy, and you know how you can have like the different brooms or whatever. Somebody made the PlayStation 1 Hagrid broom. So it's like a low poly version of like his T pose, and you just ride on his back.
Oh God. PS1 Hagrid. God, that's what an irresponsible jerk. Also, Hagrid was in context of that situation. God. Yeah, oh no, it's crazy. Speaking of like fans doing crazy shit or whatever, just I'm gonna introduce you to a wild idea here. This is something that someone put into words for me like a year or two ago, and it's crazy for me to think about. Harry Potter is such a like a widely discussed fandom, and especially if you're into reading like fan theories, fan made stories, what if scenarios, and stuff like that. If you sink yourself far enough into it, you start to lose track of what's canon and what's not. And I initially scoffed when I heard that. I was like, Shh, that means you've been on the internet too much. You need to go to bed. But then I thought about it for a bit, and I was like, wait a second. I'm thinking about it now, and there's stuff I'm not 100% sure isn't canon or is canon, or maybe it's just fan canon or fandom. And I'm just like, oh god, what's going on? And I start digging into it, and I'm like, oh god, there's so much content. I'm not sure what's real anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I've done a little bit of looking into like somewhat fandom stuff and everything, but I don't know. It's mostly just like memes that I see or like actual content that I see out there, all based around Harry Potter. Less so fandom stuff, which I don't know. I guess I should look up more about like the like actual fandom and everything. Sorry, for some reason the music stopped and it kind of threw me off.
Yeah,
So
and I
I
saw
had to
that in the
throw it
chat
back.
too.
I had to throw it back up.
Nah, you're good. One thing at the very minimum I advise you to do is to go on Google Images and then just like type in Harry Potter Reddit or Harry Potter Tumblr and just start reading some of the crazy stuff that people post for like fan theories or jokes. Like I mean, like one of the first ones that popped up when I did it was even someone saying, you know, it's amazing Harry Potter fan theories. They're all 99% of them are plausible because Harry in the books is such an idiot and doesn't notice what's going on. So technically, most of this stuff could be happening. Harry just doesn't notice it because he's an idiot.
Yeah. I do enjoy Harry Potter memes though, like the whole meme culture around it and everything. Like all the videos that have popped up over the years, all of the actual, like
It's
uh,
great.
little short videos or the pictures and everything.
I,
Like the
I love fans talking about the comparisons between like the books and movies and like doing like character work. Like there's the classic like Dumbledore asked calmly from
yeah
like in the book like Dumbledore just being all calm asking Harry if he put his name in the Goblet of Fire, and of course what's his name? I think it's Michael Gambiton, the actor who does like the newer Dumbledore. Just rushing into the room and grabbing Harry and being like, "Did you put your name in the goddamn Goblet of Fire?" It's like,
yeah.
damn man, calm down.
One of my favorites is like the people make fun of Ron all the time in the first one, where it's like, not me, not Hermione, you. And it's like that's one of my favorite ones, just because the way he says it and everything. Because they're kids, they don't act like a whole lot, and they're like at that time pretty new, and it's just the way that he said that was pretty funny.
They are very far from the worst child actors I've ever seen. I would even say that they rank among some of the best child actors that I've ever seen. But yeah, no, there are some lines that get through where it's really funny. Speaking of though, the guy who plays Lucius Malfoy, Draco's dad,
Yeah.
the actor was giving I don't remember all these actors' names off the top of my head. The actor was giving an interview at one point where he was talking about like what was one of your favorite moments working on the movie, and he talked about this scene that they're doing. It's at the end of the movie where they're in Dumbledore's office, and then Lucius just storms in, and it's sort of like, "So I heard that you're back and shit happened," and he's sort of like in panic mode where he's like, "They can't connect any of this to me. I got to make sure though," and there's like some dialogue exchange, and then Lucius turns to Harry, and then just goes, "Well, I hope Mr. Potter will always be around to save the day," and apparently originally that was just supposed to be it, like the parting shot, like the petty line. I think he said that he meant he did that on his own because he's like, oh yeah, no, this is exactly what he said. He's like, yeah, I'm the bad guy. Like I should give some parting shot before I storm out of the office in a huff. And so he does that sinister line. I hope Mr. Potter will always be around to save the day. And after that he meant to leave, but then Daniel Radcliffe, like all on his own, like in like just on set, like took that one step forward and was like, "Don't worry, I will be." And then he was just everyone on set was like, "Oh shit! Like what a badass!" And to be fair, that is one of Harry's more badass moments, I think, where he's just like stepped forward and be like, "I got your name, you son of a bitch." He's like, "I'm
Yeah.
coming for you,
There's
but I hope I don't find the Death Note."
apparently there were like quite a few like situations kind of like that where they threw something in and like one of the actors was thrown off a little bit, but it rolled so well, and even the reaction of like the other actor like rolled well with the character, so they left a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
stuff in.
like that Draco Malfoy scene from also from Chamber of Secrets actually. Chamber of Secrets has a bunch of them, I think. Where like they're impersonating Crabbe and Goyle, and then like the actors goes ahead and just like says this line where he's like, "Oh, we were in the library reading," and then like Draco Malfoy as I think like Tom Fleming or whatever his name is, he turns and he's like, "I didn't know you could read," and then just gives the not bad face, like meme face.
Yeah.
It's very that's a very memeable face, and like I didn't know you could read, not bad.
uh let's see, there
uh,
was what was the other meme? The whole song that came out like a long time ago too, where it's the snipe, Sayavara
I,
snipe.
Harry Potter puppet pals. God,
Yeah.
that was one of those things that persisted. So, people who have never heard of Puppet Pals know that song because they've heard it from somewhere. Like someone at a book event or a fan event sang that song, and they're just like, "What the hell?"
I've definitely seen more recently, more and more TikToks popping up with people like doing the whole song and everything and switching between the characters. There was this one chick. She was like dressed as each character, and she was doing like this weird dance and everything the whole time. And every time it switched to like another character's line or whatever, like she was switching costumes and like doing a transition and everything, and kind of jumping back and forth between the characters. And I thought it was pretty well done. It was supposed to be kind of like crappy amateur. Like the costumes she threw together were like they look like they were meant for like a puppet type of thing. They were crappy design costumes, but she did it to be funny and everything. And it was so good because it was just one of those things where you could tell that it was a fan just having fun, knowing it's stupid, and not
Oh
not
yeah,
trying to
like
like gain fame from it and just doing it to be goofy.
oh yeah, definitely. And I think that's one of the best parts of it. And the fact that J.K. Rowling is so cool with it is, I think, part of what makes Harry Potter so popular. Like this is the discussion for another day. But like they're in internet history, you can look this up because there's some pretty good like short essays that discuss this. But there were days where like you never talked about fandom in public. Back as late as I think like the early 2000s, it's like it just wasn't something done. Like if you made like independent movies or posters or artwork or wrote stories, you had to actually worry about like lawyers coming after you, and that. I'm not going to start going into mentioning specific authors, but like some fairly prolific authors got in on it and had like their team of lawyers harass fans randomly, being like, "Did you draw this outrageously sexy picture of Harry Potter?" Or well, not Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling's really cool with it, but like for an example, like you had to worry about someone showing up at your door and be like, "Did you draw this picture of Harry Potter with an 8-pack?" Oh well, now we're going to sue you for everything you got. It's just like why? Like why would you do that?
Yeah, that became kind of a big thing where definitely people were more afraid of fan art because like you said, they could be taken down by other people like the other artists and everything, or the original creators. And that's kind of really sad because if people are expressing like love for what you created, but again, on the other hand, I get it. Like, you don't want someone else to take your work and make a bunch of money off of it if it blows up. Like, I think that's why the like Tolkien estate is pretty like guarded and everything, because
Oh yeah.
Tolkien created like a huge universe. So they don't want people just kind of taking their stuff and running with it and like making a huge profit off of it, especially because I mean they donate and stuff too. So, but authors like J.K. Rowling, like you said, she, as far as I know, she seemed cool with it. So,
Oh yeah, I mean, and I understand wanting to protect the IP and everything, and like you said, like the Lord of the Rings estate is very well guarded, which is just a crazy phrase to put out there. It's like the estate is well guarded. We'll have to circle around the back, but no, the yeah, and then it's like different authors would like work hard to protect like their IPs and stuff like that. But it's like going after the fans was crazy, and eventually there was just like this cultural shift. And again, there's essays that describe this in much more detail online. But it's like there was this cultural shift where suddenly it was much cooler to talk about. Like conversations like we're having now are only possible because people are much cooler about it. Um, just talking about like how much they love the fandom, how much they love the stuff, the jokes that we're talking about, the games, the memes and stuff like that. Like those all exist. Like Harry Potter Puppet Pals couldn't exist if this oppressive mentality still existed, where if you made anything or got any sort of attention or profited off it in any way, you'd be in trouble.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's it just it's good that we're where we are right now with fandom, where it's like even writers or like people who write stuff are like, no, I want people to be inspired and talk about my stuff and draw art and write stories of their own online based around my work. As long as they don't claim credit or make money off of it, it's fine.
Yeah, and I mean that's the other thing too is like making money off of other people's content is kind of sketchy, back and forth, like trying to come up with a valid reason. That's why they have the whole like fair use and everything. Um, but as long as you're creating something that isn't, like a copy or whatever, I think it should generally be okay. Like, if you're not like taking the entire story of Harry Potter and then throwing yourself in the mix as like the fourth best friend, like obviously that would cause problems, But if you're taking that same universe and you tell a story of another student in the background going through like all this stuff and maybe seeing things from a different perspective, I I think that should be somewhat okay. Like obviously don't like do like a shot for shot type of thing where it's like, they're telling basically the same story but just from the eyes of another student. But if they
Right.
if they have their own like little stories or adventures throughout like the school years and everything, and then like maybe every now and then when like something big happens, they can mention like that's happening, but stay in the detail of like I I guess we already warned about spoilers, so I shouldn't have to worry about this. But like when all the Death Eaters come walking up and Hagrid's carrying Harry, like when that happens,
Harry
you
dies.
you could have like one of the other students kind of describe what they're seeing, like as all the Death Eaters approach and everything, and they see all that. Like you could have it from their perspective, because that's a big moment. That's not just like
Oh
something
yeah.
small.
And like I was saying earlier, man, fan fiction. Like a lot of people with writing talent are really good at writing stories that can probably fall into the category that you just described, where it's like they're describing the events from an outsider's perspective, being like, "Oh, Harry just did some wild shit. That was incredible to watch." Like in the book, it describes it from Harry's point of view, where he's like, "Wow, that was scary and intense." And then just like some other student was like, "Actually, that was probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Holy shit, I want to learn magic from this kid. He's got a dueling club. Fuck yeah, I'm joining."
Yeah, but I mean like they should be allowed to kind of put that out there without prejudice, and if it
Oh,
happens to
absolutely.
take off and they have like a whole series, like okay, well, what if somebody took the Harry Potter universe and they decided to do uh like a movie or a book or whatever about like one of the other schools, you know, so that way it wasn't Hogwarts, but they did a book on like the American schools, or what was it, like the French schools, or that more like
Beauxbatons, which is in like southern France, and then there's one which I think is in Ukraine, maybe.
something like that. Yeah,
Durmstrang. It's an Eastern Bloc amalgamation. I think like it represents like the Slavic countries.
yeah.
Uh, which is and yeah, then in the game also, like, this is a little bit of a spoiler for you actually. Uh, one of the students that you talk to, she's a transfer student from Africa, and she's like, "Yeah, I went to the African magic school, and I can't remember the name of it right now." But she's like, "Yeah, no, it's this whole African school, and it's designed differently. It's like built out of a cliff face or whatever, and we don't use wands for casting and stuff." And just she says that, and right away you're like, "Whoa, what? It just a school without wands?" She's like, "Yeah, but I used wands when I got to England, and it's much easier and it's much more efficient, I think." And I was just like, "Yeah, yeah, okay, wands are cool. Dial back. Describe to me this African magic school and how cool it is.
Yeah,
Like, it sounds amazing."
like a lot of these other schools, I mean, we don't really know too much about them or anything, and I think that if a fan decided that they wanted to write a story describing like that school and everything, um, if it started to pick up traction and everything, I think like original creators like JK should be able to say like, you know, yeah, sure, like let's roll with this, because she doesn't give, or at least she hasn't. She doesn't give like too much detail on a lot of these other places, as far as I know. Like maybe she goes into detail in the books as to like how the other schools acts or behaves, or like maybe looks a little bit or whatever. But there's clearly not a story, as far as I'm aware, of these other schools that is written by her. So to have a fan do that, I think an author or an artist or whatever should be able to say, yeah, like you take over that part of it. This, we'll share this quote unquote fame of what I created, and you can have a piece of that as long as it's good. Like, obviously don't just give the allowance to write something big for your everyday, like writer or whatever, like internet writer. But if somebody like actually comes up with a good story and everything, and it's good enough to get published, like, I think she should be able to go over it with that other person and just be like, you know what? Yep, like I think you should be able to have this book about the universe and everything.
That would be cool. Like, if she were to like to bring on like more of like a collaborative property. I mean, Harry Potter is so big. Like, you better believe that like it's guarded at least as well as the Lord of the Rings estate, or the Lord of the Rings IP. Where there's just so much to it, and it's so profitable and beloved by so many people. They don't want to screw it up. I mean, to skirt around a very touchy subject for a lot of people, just look at Star Wars, which did have a lot of outside input and then was handed over to a different company with a whole different vision. And there's just a big mess around that these days. Like, people don't want to see their favorite characters get misused or misrepresented somehow. Like, someone doing a Harry Potter story and then just trashing all the characters.
Well,
Excuse me.
that's why I think it should be, it should be separate. Like I said, they should have the right to be able to take something that exists in that universe but isn't explained or like really fleshed out or anything, and be able to create something with that. Like, you can't touch the like original property, I should say. Like, you can't change something about Hogwarts. You can't change something about Harry or his friends. Like that type of thing. But I think being able to say like, okay, well, we're gonna talk about the American schools, and you just have like that whole kind of like outlook on it. I think that should be fine.
I probably sound like a broken record at this point, but you're just straight up describing fan fiction, and
Well,
I
I
really think
know,
that
but
there's
I think it should be allowed, like, uh, big time. Like, it should be, they should be allowed to publish that shit, is what I'm talking about. Not just put it out
no,
on the
I get you.
internet.
I get you.
Like,
The Star Wars in the old days did a similar thing where they brought in a bunch of authors and gave them like a set of guidelines to work with within the domain of Star Wars to be like, okay, you want to write a story about this, doing this. These are some things you can't do, and we'll have final approval in case you say anything like crazy that just doesn't fit. Um, I get what you're saying, and it's an interesting idea, and I think it could really work. I think that honestly, if people were to do it, it would like revitalize a lot of the fandom. I mean, Harry Potter's still pretty mainstream, but it's probably a card that they could play maybe 10 years down the road or something to like revitalize the fandom and like bring in a bunch of stuff where it's like they collab with a bunch of authors to be like, hey, I want you to write a 3-book miniseries that takes place in the Harry Potter universe. Go to a different author. Hey, I want you to write a 4-book series. Go to someone else, be like, I want you to write a 1-book thing of short stories about the Harry Potter universe, and just bring people back in, like keep the IP alive and like enhance the world. Um, Speaking of enhancing the world, though, you might actually get a kick out of this. So there was there's discussions and stuff in the Hogwarts, like doubling back to Hogwarts Legacy. Like there's little stuff that goes on that I think you'd really enjoy, and a lot of people I think don't give enough credit to. Conversations that you can have with characters where they just drop some knowledge. Like I just mentioned the African transfer student talking about going to African wizarding school and how crazy that was with wandless magic and stuff. Um, there's another character who she's an older woman and she talks about having lived in Japan, and she's like, yeah, I tried out for the Japanese Quidditch team or whatever. And then she's like, yeah, and one thing led to another, yada yada. No spoilers for this, but then I left, and then I just sort of traveled the world, and then soon enough I ended up teaching flying at this school in Scotland, and I'm just like, whoa. And then I thought about it for a second, and I was like, how crazy must her journey have been? She grew up in based on how old she is, it's like she would have grown up in like late 18th, early 19th century Japan, where there's very little outside interaction from Japan with the rest of the world. And she chose as a young woman on her own to just leave Japan and see the world. And eventually her trip led her to Scotland. She didn't even stay on the Asian continent. She left the continent entirely. And just like I was just thinking about like what a crazy culture shock, because today it's like you hear about all these cultures through movies and TV shows and the internet, like yep, always the internet. But back in those days, like she didn't have any of that. Like she was totally like just shook by all the stuff she was seeing for the first time. Like imagine having never seen chopsticks in your life and then you see chopsticks. For her, it would have been the same for fork and spoon.
Well, I
Like
mean,
just
they had forks and spoons.
I'm just saying though, it's like it
Oh
wasn't the
yeah,
norm though. Like all of a sudden, it's like you go somewhere and you have chopsticks and everyone's staring at you like you're insane. Or she goes somewhere like where just people have never heard of him before, and like I said, people there's not a lot of like cross cultural awareness, is what I'm saying. Back in
right.
those days, I mean, you'd probably get some in like colonial England, for example, but like say you're backpacking through Europe. What do you think the average German or Frenchman will know about Asian culture?
Yeah, and I
Like you,
mean, yeah,
it's
that's
wild.
that's pretty cool to like have all these different characters who they experience all these different cultures first from where they're from, like you said, the exchange student and everything, like, and it's cool to learn about like all the outside world, because we've really only been shown like the English version of the Wizarding World. I mean, there's a little bit that we see in like Fantastic Beasts and everything, of like other sides, but you
Yeah.
really only get that one experience. And I think it'd be really nice to see and hear about more of these other like cultures and everything within that universe.
Like I was saying before, it's like it's crazy to think about like all these different like cultures and stuff too. Um, People talking about like what they'd imagine. Again, sinking into the fanfic world here. People talking about what they'd imagine other wizarding schools would look like. Like the different like cultural influences that would go into creating a magical university. and just like what sort of learning priorities they would have that would change from place to place, like cultural effects on the curriculum and stuff like that. It's just it's fascinating to think about, like this very in-depth world. Like people make fun of it because they're like parts of Harry Potter are like stupid or don't make sense. But I'm one of those people that's like, yeah, sometimes we'll make fun of Harry Potter because it's like, why would you give a 13-year-old the ability to time travel? But I mean, that's a real question. But it also comes down to, oh, what sort of things could you do with the ability to time travel? Like, how does this power exist and people not abuse it all the time? And so people have to like draw these elaborate explanations for, well, you see, it would have to be like this, or it could be like this, or maybe like that.